Now we want to turn to our top story. A man from Western New York will spend more than 4 years in federal prison for his actions during the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol back in 2021. A judge sentenced Amherst native Thomas Sibick to 50 months behind bars for assaulting a D.C. police officer during the chaos outside the Capitol. Prosecutors had actually asked for a longer sentence, about 6 years in prison. Now, the hearing today inside the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. got contentious at times, especially when Sibick's defense team argued that he was actually going toward this man, D.C. police officer Michael Fanone, quote, to help. Well, Judge Amy Berman Jackson was having none of that. According to a reporter in the courtroom, the judge cut off the defense attorney, saying of Sibick, quote, that he pleaded guilty to assaulting, resisting, impeding police. He didn't plead guilty to trying to help. That police officer, Michael Fanone, previously had this to say about the rioters who he believed were trying to kill him.
Guys were trying to grab my gun and they were chanting, like, kill him with his own gun.
I remember thinking there was a very good chance I would be torn apart or shot to death with my own weapon. I thought of my 4 daughters who might lose their dad.
Well, this is video of former Officer Fanone getting attacked on January 6th. He addressed the judge today saying, quote, Mr. Sibick belongs in prison. Please place him there, asking the judge to ignore Mr. Sibick's pleas for remorse on January 6th. He gave me none. He continued saying that Sibick's a coward and a liar. He lied and lied and lied again. The former officer referring to Sibick filing a motion using an effing dating app during the pretrial release, calling him a, quote, entitled a-hole. That's what he said in court today. Meantime, the defendant, Thomas Sibick, was then able to speak. He repeatedly apologized to former Officer Fanone and said, quote, what he did was bravery. That's duty. That's the man I aspire to be. He added, I still wonder why I did what I did. And he ended by saying, please forgive me, please. After a break late morning into the early afternoon, Judge Jackson said that Sibick didn't get swept up in the moment as he had previously claimed, but had instead bought in 100% on January 6th. And the judge zeroed in on how he stole former Officer Fanone's badge. The judge saying, quote, it's a symbol of a lifelong commitment to serve the city and the country. She said to Sibick, you stripped him of everything that badge represented. Moments later, she announced the 50-month prison sentence. Joining us live right now is Jerry Zremski, who was in the courtroom today. He's a former D.C. bureau chief for the Buffalo News, still reports for the paper, also a journalism lecturer at the University of Maryland. Jerry, great to have you on here. And considering the violence that took place and Sibick's earlier denials, some legal analysts thought that maybe the judge would give him a lengthier sentence, perhaps on the top end of the guidelines. What was your reaction and what did you notice in the courtroom as we learned it would be 50 months?
I got the sense that she would probably split the difference between what the prosecution was seeking and what the probation office had suggested, which was 40 months. And I thought that would happen because that's frequently what seems to happen in federal cases. I knew that she didn't want to give him a light sentence because anything like home confinement would have very much conflicted with all of the other sentences of the January 6th criminals. And therefore, she's not going to make him stand out in that way. At the same time, his criminal action really did only last a couple of seconds. It was not as if he tasered Officer Fanone repeatedly like one of the other defendants did. So it would have made sense for the sentence to be somewhat shorter than the others who attacked Officer Fanone. And that in the end is exactly what she decided.
Jerry, obviously cameras aren't allowed inside federal courtrooms, so I'm wondering if you can kind of paint the picture for us of what happened. It seems like it was kind of this dramatic moment. After former Officer Fanone finished his statement to the judge, he apparently was walking back to his seat in the courtroom, and the court marshal actually admonished some people there who were supporting the defendant, claiming that they were glaring at Fanone. The judge, I guess, addressed this after that as well. What happened?
It was a very strange scene. Officer Fanone's statement was very powerful. He used more than one profanity during the statement, and he stalked away from the bench looking at the families, looking at Fanone's father, mother, 3 brothers, or I should say Sibick's 3 brothers, mother, father, and new wife. and he winked at them. And I think that the family's members got very upset at this. Sibick's father said, "Wow." And that's what precipitated the judge saying what she said. So there was just longstanding tension throughout this sentencing hearing between Fanone and particularly Eugene Sibick, Thomas Sibick's father, who obviously had strong feelings about Mr. Fanone and the role that Mr. Fanone has played in these cases, trying to get the longest sentence possible for all of the defendants.
Again, since we can't show people what happened in court, what should we know about Sibick's plea for leniency before the judge earlier today? I mentioned he apologized multiple times. He talked directly to Officer Fanone saying, I'm sorry.
Yes, he was very contrite, and the statement that he had, which was written, he delivered really through tears. So it was very clear that he was upset and contrite about what he had done. One thing that was very notable, I think, in terms of the defense, is that the defense made the argument, particularly Sibick's lawyer made the argument, that he was misdiagnosed with attention deficit disorder on the day of January 6th, and therefore was on Adderall, which is exactly the wrong prescription medicine you should be on if you actually are manic or bipolar. And Sibick was subsequently diagnosed as bipolar. So the defense was making this argument that Sibick did what he did to some degree because he was in a manic state. And the judge really was having none of that. And I think the reason she was having none of that was that the only evidence that the defense presented on this point was a letter from a doctor, but that doctor happened to be Sibick's aunt. And the judge made the point that that was not exactly an objective source. So I don't think that line of argument worked very well because there wasn't that independent evidence to back up the point.
Finally, Jerry, before I run out of time here, the feds told us today that we're now up to 1,069 arrests from the Capitol riot. 350 of those either assaulted or impeded law enforcement, including Sibick. Big picture, we're told this investigation continues, too. I've read some accounts that we might only be about halfway through the total number of arrests that may end up occurring.
Well, I think the way to view that is to view the way life is today, with everyone has a cell phone, right? And so many people in the crowd were filming. Other people were filming too. There's just an extraordinary amount of evidence for law enforcement to sort through. And that's one reason why these cases seem to be taking a long time and why additional cases still continue to be rolled out and could be rolled out for quite some time.
No doubt a dramatic day in court. Jerry Zremski was there covering the Sibick sentencing for the Buffalo News. Make sure you read his reporting there. He's also a journalism lecturer at the University of Maryland. Thank you, my friend. Have a good weekend. We appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good weekend. We'll see you.